feeling comes back. I'm trying to stand on higher ground before the feeling comes
At Marty Fox. Nancy Pelosi wants a committee on gun violence. Sorry Nancy, the committee already met in Philadelphia and passed the Tune Amendment and 2A is not up for a vote. Parkland. At Online Magazine. Oh dear. Somehow, each person has his own special preferences. Haha.
Fucking Zomboy.
At Kristen Cake. Teens who were under literal fire less than 24 hours ago taking to Twitter and demanding some action are motherfin heroes. Parkland strong.
Disarm the killer. They'll use something else. The worst episode of school violence, 1927, 38 kids killed by explosives. Not a gun. And so what I would say is, listen, this isn't that hard. Most of the assailants are male. Most of them are socially ostracized. Most have a fascination with video games and with weapons. If you have even a coarse filter that leads to a referral to voluntary or even involuntary outpatient medical treatment, psychiatric treatment, inpatient when needed, you will catch 75% of these cases before they ever happen. You know, we say social media is creating this. To some extent it is. But it's also testimony to the fact of how much we're able to ignore, how callous we have become in this safety net, that there's this trail in so many of these cases where you say, oh, it's all over the internet. Well, we've got to give people a known way, like at the tip of their fingers, where they can say, this is what you do when you have these concerns.
Yeah.
At Fox News, psychiatrist Dr. Keith Abloh, please don't get distracted by thinking this is a gun issue.
What comes
It
next?
isn't.
That is the
All you
question.
will have is a creative killer if you disarm the killer.
What would you tell me?
They'll use
Has to be
something
done.
else. Story.
Number one, I'd say, please don't get distracted by thinking this is a gun issue. It isn't. All you'll have is a creative killer if you disarm the killer. They'll use something else. The worst episode of school violence, 1927, 38 kids killed by explosives, not a gun. And so what I would say is, listen, this isn't that hard. Most of the assailants are male. Most of them are socially ostracized. Most have a fascination with video games and with weapons. If you have even a coarse filter that leads to a referral to voluntary or even involuntary outpatient medical treatment, psychiatric treatment, inpatient when needed, you will catch 75% of these cases before they ever happen. You know, we say social media is creating this. To some extent it is. But it's also testimony to the fact of how much we're able to ignore, how callous we have become in this safety net, that there's this trail in so many of these cases where you say, oh, it's all over the internet. Well, we've got to give people a known way, like at the tip of their fingers, where they can say, this is what you do when you have these concerns.
Yeah.
With the beautiful website, Make It Squarespace. Start your free trial today and use offer code SoundCloud to save 10%.
On Thursday's edition of the Fox News Channel, Graham Engel, House Majority Whip Steve Scalise urged people go pray for the families. Carabo Scalise Breitbart TV. American Urban Radio reporter April Ryan repeatedly asked whether the White House budget was recently updated to include more funding for the At Realtarian. Good morning, Patriots. Remember, we are the red wave. Hug your kids tight today. Life is precious, so enjoy it to the fullest. It is politics as usual today. Remember why we are here. Mugga. Have a wonderful, blessed day. Zuckerberg created one of the world's largest and most important platforms for spreading news, even when it is fake. At CNN, US Vice President Mike Pence said he actively chose to ignore Kim Jong-un's sister at the opening ceremony for the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. A gang who forged fake aids to help people avoid immigration control have finally been put behind bars. Romanian Dragos Dragomiris property was raw. At the Hill, RNC spokeswoman claims Mueller indictments prove Russians organized against Trump.
So make me control it. Oh, na, 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 na. When she walk it up and I look for me.
The jury of a European Capital of Culture contest ECF 2023 said that one of the participating towns is too white and there are not enough make. At Julia 1. I get a lot of tweets from people with a hashtag. Judging by their tweets, they are mostly pretty nasty people. They claim to be pro, but I am not sure they are pro anything but vile abuse. I think anti-Brexit folk need a new hashtag. Exactly. At Joan, an important reminder in any age. I wonder how far along the scale of moral degenerations we could judge America to be in its current state. Republicans seize a moment of mourning children who'd even gone down in Florida to mock opposition to their tax scam. Witnesses say the fight broke out very early on Friday morning between a large extended family and other guests, and grew to the point where fellow
The world has moved closer to the brink of a nuclear conflict. That is the warning that began the 54th Munich Security Conference. NATO's Secretary General said the threat is evolving fast from North Korea to Russia.
We see that Russia is modernizing its nuclear capabilities, developing new nuclear systems, and increasing the role of nuclear weapons in its military strategy.
Stoltenberg said NATO is determined to avoid a new Cold War, welcoming Europe's plans to cooperate more closely on defence.
They are an opportunity to further strengthen the European pillar within NATO and contribute to better burden sharing. But with opportunity comes risk. The risk of weakening the transatlantic bond, the risk of duplicating what NATO is already doing.
The United States has echoed those concerns. Germany's defense minister said such fears were unwarranted.
Wir wollen transatlantisch bleiben.
We want to stay transatlantic in our outlook, but also become more European. A start has been made. Last December, we finally launched plans for a European defense union. In a way, we started out on the political path towards working on a European army.
Powerful earthquake hits southwest Mexico. News DW 17.2018.
The United States has repeatedly called for European allies to boost defense spending. U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis
Germany's SPD thinks record low in latest polls. News DW 16.2018.
Analysts say Washington is sending allies mixed signals.
We've got Americans
ramping up their in Berlin Innovative and Irreverent Arts DW 82.2018.
And so at the level of commitment, of real commitment of American capabilities, there seems to be actually a re-engagement. But at the political level, at the level of political leadership, strategic leadership, I think people sense the lack of voice.
The United States National Security Advisor General H.R.
Russian boss
McMaster
Twitter after Parkland shooting wired.
Conference Saturday. Delegates here are keen to hear Washington's take on countering the many threats to global security. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, Munich, Germany.
Turkish court sentences 6 journalists to life in prison over 2016 failed coup. France 24.
Threatened by the possibility of Iran, which calls for the destruction of the Jewish state, becoming nuclear armed. So Israeli leaders have praised their U.S. counterparts, such as Vice President Mike Pence, for threatening to pull out of the multilateral deal that freezes Iran's nuclear program for more than a decade. In a recent speech to Israel's parliament, Pence said the deal merely delays the day when Iran can acquire a nuclear weapon. An outcome that
Suicide bombers kill at least 19 in northeast Nigeria. Market attack. France 24.
Even though Tehran says its nuclear ambitions are peaceful, many in
Olympic
Israel
skeleton athletes and
dismiss
helmets.
such assurances.
We are working all the time on the international arena, trying to keep the issue on the agenda, not to let the world believe that in the last couple of years everything's already
Quingos blames
fine,
visa for issues around duplicate
the deal
charges.
was signed, and many important players, United States, China, Russia, European Union, are all behind
Understanding America's endgame in Syria deeply.
Provide information, and we know for a fact what the Iranians are up to.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, whose residence is down the street behind me, has joined the U.S. in its campaign to press European powers to toughen the Iran nuclear deal that they have championed for so long. Some Israeli security analysts say the Europeans have to change course and admit they were wrong about how the deal
acknowledges
would
failure
affect
to investigate tip on
Iranian
Florida
behavior.
gun on France 24.
Feel well with the fact that the Iranians continue to enhance their long missiles capability. They know about the terror organizations and networks that the Iranians are
Lunar New Year. CNBC looks at Chinatowns worldwide.
building around the world. So they might say, okay, we think it's very bad to change the agreement, but the circumstances might lead to the Europeans to understand that there is a need to contain Iran, and the way to contain Iran is by cooperating with the United States of America.
But Europe so far shows little sign of that. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Federica Mogherini says such concerns are outside the scope of the nuclear deal and should be resolved in other forums.
The unity of the international community is essential to preserve a deal that is working, that is making the world safer.
Bollywood film on menstrual hygiene Padman banned in Pakistan. Film DW 16.2018.
And we expect all parties to continue to fully implement this agreement.
Ephraim Halevi, former chief of Israeli spy agency Mossad, says the EU is right to focus on preserving the nuclear deal, particularly through boosting trade ties with Iran.
Economically, to open up areas of commerce and areas of tourism and areas of industry and areas of communication in order to allow the Iranian public at large to benefit from the fruits of the agreement.
But with U.S. officials calling the agreement a disaster, the Trump administration says it is working with Britain, France, and Germany on a fix. It says U.S. energy sanctions against Iran will be reimposed if that fix is not agreed to by May 12th. Michael Lippin, VOA News, Jerusalem.
Kosovo today celebrates the 10th anniversary of its declaration of independence from Serbia.
Deputy Rosenstein on grand jury indictment of Russians.
Pristina for parties and banquets to herald the occasion. But it's also a day for remembering those killed during the Kosovo War.
Critical patients in eastern Ghouta used as bargaining chips Syria deeply.
The country and paved the way for independence. Despite the jubilant atmosphere, however, Kosovo's independence is still not recognized by close to 100 nations.
So this is reading from the article, The Course with the official title, The Truth About Pornography, a Pornography Literacy Curriculum for High School Students designed to reduce sexual and dating
Mueller
violence.
indictment Russian trolls still realize identities to fool Facebook wired.
Peer leadership program for teenagers headquartered in Boston's South End and funded by the city's public health agency. About 24 selected high school students attend every year, most of them black or Latino, along with a few Asian students from Boston public high schools, including the city, so on and on. During most of the year, the teenagers learn about healthy relationships.
Syria 2018, the major issues for the year ahead, Syria deeply.
As opposed to English and history and math. But often through group discussions, role-playing, and other exercise. I mean, so what they're teaching them is that porn isn't necessarily reality. I mean, that's a very sad answer. It's a very sad answer. And yet, what are the other answers? Ross Douthat, in reaction to this piece, Ross Douthat is the Catholic op-ed writer who used to be a lot better before Trump, but now I think the New York Times just does not let people write what they actually think. Anyway, he wrote a piece called Let's Ban Porn. And he says the belief that it should not be restricted is a mistake. The belief that it cannot be censored is a superstition. Law and jurisprudence changed once to allow porn and can change again. And while you can find anything somewhere on the internet, making hardcore porn something to be quested after in dark corners would dramatically reduce its pedagogical role, its cultural normalcy, its power over libidos everywhere. And Peter Suderman at Reason, of course, Reason is a libertarian site. They don't want to ban anything. He answers Douthat by saying, to start with, you would need to stop the production of porn by business enterprises, forcing at minimum every person who has ever attended the Adult Video News Awards in a professional capacity to immediately find a new line of work. You would need to find a way to stop a slew of high-profile,
Canada postpones marijuana legalization.
Hosting, or otherwise distributing explicit materials. After you crack down on the pros, you would need to go after amateurs by finding some way to stop tens of millions of iPhone-wielding Americans from making home movies, many of which would resemble professional products in quality. What's interesting about this, and by nature I'm a libertarian, but I really see this as a plague, and the plague's not porn. The plague is an attitude to the human body and to human relationships that was sold to us by the left all from the 60s to today, and now that they're reaping the whirlwind, they don't like it very much. It's interesting when you look at the great ages of civilizations. If you think about the Augustan age of the ancient Rome, if you think about the Victorian age, if you think about the American 1950s, they're all marked by at least an outward display of
Russian toll in Syria battle was 300 killed and wounded sources.
After a libertine age. So in America, we had the 1920s and the 1930s.
Helicopter crashes after 7.2 magnitude earthquake rocks Mexico, New York Daily News.
Something shocking, now anything goes. But by the 1950s, not so much. And that was the golden age of this generation, of this cycle of Americanism. Victorian age, same thing in the 1700s.
2 people killed in Horsham level crossing crash.
Tom Jones and things like that. By the 1800s, by the Victorian age, everybody is, as you know, very brutish. But that's also that's probably one of the greatest ages of human civilizations. But one of the things is that
everything you need to know about the 2018 Berlinale film DW14 2.2018.
Historians would call her the angel in the house. The angel in the house.
Must-read coverage on Syria from 2017. Syria deeply.
Housewife was one of the key elements of all entertainment, all ideas.
Yahoo. Good morning, America. Latest news and headlines.
Feminism has always had this reactionary shadow. Okay, first they say, yes, men and women should have the same kind of sex, and then, oh my God, women are being abused. This is no good.
Greatness is Yitkin wins bronze in ski slope style at Winter Olympics.
Men's desires should be prohibited. Sex, the porn was bad. They've always had a strain of feminism. The porn was bad. And it would be interesting if feminism morphed in the same way that the left has morphed. The side of free speech has now morphed into the side of no speech. It would be interesting, and I do think this could happen.
The Russia effect the 2016 election is now undeniable wired.
Defense of women in their roles as guiding families, guiding men.
Yahoo Mail free email with 1000 GB of storage.
That without women, men would be uncivilized. Feminists start screaming at you and say, it's not our role to civilize men. It's not our role to civilize men. And yet, they don't like living in a world without civilized
Carnival
men.
parades run millions across Germany. News DW12 2.2018.
All this Me Too movement is living in a world where women have lost their power to civilize men, have lost their mission to civilize men, have lost their mission to form men in families and in marriage, and they don't like so much what happens when that looks like. When they don't like so much what that looks like when that actually happens. So I have many times predicted a new Victorian
Brazil's military is put in charge of security in Rio de Janeiro. The New York Times.
Feminism morphs into the leader of some of that Victorian prudery and some of that Victorian elevation of the family.
Winter Olympics for Nathan Chen. Long program is much to celebrate. Matt Bai, national political columnist for Yahoo. Erdogan Turkish army has advanced 300 square kilometers in Afrin.
الأسلحة اللي عطوها للمعارضة السورية كلياتها عم تنباع بالسوق السوداء. لذلك نحن فينا بكل بساطة نشتري من هالجماعات مثل من 7 سنين ولهلا نحن عم نشتري منهم.
Infamous Google memo author shut down by Federal Labor Board Ars Technica.
نقشه عفرینه نقشه سوری گشتی به پاریزی عفرین جی پارچه جوی نقشه و تجاری هم گلی عفرین
Drake gives away $1 million in goddess plain video time.
برنامه مده پرچه بونه کتنه بو
اما تقلید نظر دولت باش بون لسر حساب جهت آن جواکک آنجی خلقن دیتر تیوی واته کو ایدی او هاتیش بیتر
Someone got his hands on a Galaxy S9 and spilled its remaining secrets BGR.
خلقی کل در جیان دیگه بازاری سر هاتوان لسروان هات کرن
Why Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston are still everyone's golden couple. News. I need to find what I'm looking for. Hold up, this is really interesting. Someone got his hands on a Galaxy S9 and spilled its hash remaining secrets BGR. Check these digits. We have just over 1 week to go until Samsung finally takes the wraps off its new flagship smartphone duo, the Galaxy S9 and Galaxy S9 Plus. Well, to be honest, there aren't really any wraps on either new smartphone anymore. The Galaxy S9 and Galaxy S9 Plus are two of the most hotly anticipated handsets of 2018, so they've been the focus of countless leaks and rumors for nearly 6 months now. Despite the fact that neither phone has been made official by Samsung, we've already known everything there is to know about them for what seems like an eternity. Or at least, we thought we knew everything. The Galaxy S9 and Galaxy S9 Plus S release date, specs, price, and key features leaked out ages ago, but it turns out that there are still a few things left unknown. At least, there were someone managed to get his hands on a Galaxy S9 and shared some interesting specifics surrounding some upcoming Galaxy S9 features. The new details help paint an even more complete of what we can expect when Samsung hosts its first unpacked press conference of 2018 in just over 1 week. An anonymous Reddit user supposedly spent 20 minutes of hands-on time with a very close to production Galaxy S9. He posted an Ask Me Anything thread, or AMA, in which he took questions and answered them over the course of more than 12 hours. In fact, the user had posted 75 comments in the AMA thread at the time of this writing, addressing a wide range of questions from eager Android fans. At least some of the details covered in the thread were previously unreported, and BGR confirmed with a well-placed source that many of the details provided in the thread are accurate. First and foremost, the user reaffirms that visually, the new Galaxy S9 and Galaxy S9 Plus are nearly identical to the flagship phones they replace, the Galaxy S8 and Galaxy S8 Plus. It is almost impossible to distinguish them from the front. In fact, I was really so surprised at the fact that it looked like I was holding an S8. It is really that similar, the Reddit wrote. Around back, the fingerprint sensor has notably been centered and moved beneath the camera lens on both new Galaxy S9 phones. One model, the Galaxy S9 Plus, also has a new dual-lens camera setup on the back. Men who accused Ed Murray of sexual abuse found dead in Auburn motel bar, the Seattle Times. I was sifting through some things and I found this. Delvon Hackard had been in recovery for addiction to cocaine and other illicit drugs when he sued Ed Murray, alleging the former Seattle mayor had repeatedly paid him for sex in the late 1980s when he was a teenager. Delvon Hackard, the Kent man whose sexual abuse lawsuit against Seattle Mayor Ed Murray last year prompted other allegations to come to light, eventually leading to Murray's resignation, was found dead early Friday of an apparent drug overdose in an Auburn motel. In my opinion, a hero died today, Attorney Lincoln Beauregard said Friday morning. The King County Medical Examiner's office confirmed Hackard's death on Friday afternoon, noting the official cause and manner of his death are pending. About 2:05 a.m., police and fire medics responded to a room at the Auburn Motel on Auburn Way South for the apparent drug overdose of a middle-aged black male, Auburn Assistant Chief Bill Pearson said early Friday.